Hey there, good evening. Nice to see you. Welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters, writers, journalists, editors, and editors in chief, as you will be about to see. And in our second segment today, we're going to do a Bronx author who has a brand new book of short stories, which is absolutely fascinating, which you will enjoy. Right now, it is the editor in chief of this magazine, City and State New York, which is my favorite publication, as he well knows. My buddy Ralph Ortega, nice to have you with us, my friend.
Thank you, Gary. It's a pleasure to be here.
Uh, I got to start with this. Had they asked me, I would have given you all the awards, but apparently the New York Press Association, a Better Newspaper Contest, gave City and State New York 5 awards. First place wins for Best News Website, Best Newsletter. I mean, Best Political Magazine. There you go. There's pictures of the awards. Congrats. It must be very gratifying. I realize you do it because you do it, but it is nice when something like that happens.
No, thank you very much. It's very generous of you. Our team, worked really hard, and the what's really nice about the website award is that that really is an effort across all our departments: editorial, our design, our digital, and our sales team. So it's great knowing that we have a site that people come to and feel uh, you know that is easy to engage, and of course informative, delivering on what they came to read. The other awards, we certainly are very proud of. One of them was for best newsletter, which is the Campaign Confidential newsletter that we did when Jeff Colton was still with us, and that was truly a labor of love, honestly.
Mhm.
The amount
I,
of
I,
work
I
that goes
want to
into
just mention about websites and news websites because, of course, because of what I do, I go to a lot of them and I work with local papers as well as large, obviously, the New York Times and everything else that we go through. What I love about your website is the interactivity. So if I got to, for example, want to look up, Ralph Ortega, if I put your name in now, every website doesn't do that. Not only will I maybe get a short bio of who you are, the fact that you're the editor in chief of the magazine, but all your stories will come up in a chronological, logical way. I don't get that everywhere. A lot of times I look at a paper and I go, I'm just trying to find out this story. But with City and State New York, you can get the information. The other thing, which in this day and age, the fact that you put out a hard copy paper every week is remarkable. So my hat is off, but
Thank
congratulations.
you.
The other thing, another of the many things that I like about your paper is you, as the editor, have an editor's note that opens, and introduces everybody to the paper. You get into all the little nooks and crannies. Do you walk around and say, "Hey, I got to find a story," or do you just kind of live your life as a New Yorker and say, "Oh, well, this is a story." You know what I mean? Is it a struggle to find stuff, or do you just kind of do it because you're just traveling around and you say, "Oh, look at this. This could be a story."
I'll have to be frank. It's a little combination of both.
I figured.
I do get around the city. It's where I live, and I'm always sort of in reporter mode, and I don't. I'm also one of those journalists that doesn't really ever feel like he's off duty. So I'm usually gathering string about all kinds of things, um, tons of things I never write about.
Oh,
And
those are the ones I'd really like to hear about.
then that during the week, when we're getting close to closing the magazine on Fridays, I need to decide what am I going to write about.
Right.
And so and I do discuss it with the editors, because sometimes I'll want to write something,
And
and
they say, "Get out of here.
uh, plan
Cut it."
B plan B turns out to be more actually more palatable. Let's say that they'll be more into my second option or my third option.
Okay, but
Um, and and I've been a journalist for 30 years now, and so I have a lot of a lot of stories to tell from my past. Also, having worked here in the city as a reporter, and so a lot of times
there you
those
go.
stories seem to be more appealing. So
What strikes me in the undercurrent of all of them, you have a passion for this city. That and right, am I hitting something right? That all the little nuances that make it New York City, that's really what you care about, right? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that really is what comes through to me.
well, thank you. I don't, as a journalist, working in New York is probably one of the best beats, best gigs you can ever ask for. And I did my work here. I left for a while, and I came back. And and coming back, you're in your own. If you grew up here, and it's fascinating to watch the city change. As I've always said to my kids, nothing is forever, and that's so things like watching the Hotel Pennsylvania be raised,
Amazing.
to
I
make
was
progress. And
I, progress, is it? I'm not sure. I was down there recently, and I was like, wow. I remember walking down, Seventh Avenue and looking at the marquee at the garden. It's in there somewhere. I assume. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, listen. Before we run out of time, I want to get into this. That I just thought this was fabulous. You wrote a story about called "The MTA is ready to make a deal on vacant retail space." And I thought it was very interesting because I recall as a kid, and you wrote about it, going down people could not even believe it that there was a record store. I guess it was in the Times Square station, right? That you'd go in and you could flip through records. What a great concept to consider. And now they're really considering bringing that back.
well, actually, there've been some very interesting uses for the retail space in the subways recently. Some very high-end, exclusive restaurants actually have opened in the subway, and
Have
they're
already? Somehow I missed that. I know Grand
well.
Central has a lot.
I can't recall where they were written about, but
Mhm,
they, and there's a exclusivity about them. Like
mhm.
not all these restaurants are obvious when you're entering the system. They look like a boarded up old retail space. Yeah, and but on a bigger picture level, the MTA is really uh, uh, they have a really a high record level of vacancy right now in the subways, or at least they're tackling it. And uh, and places like Fulton Center and Turnstile on Columbus Circle, they've got a lot of premium retail space. And
Where a
so
lot of people go. So if you're looking for store traffic, one train empties out, there they are.
And
Thousands.
if you're an entrepreneur, like the one I spoke to for my column, he was running a cart at Turnstile, and saw the vacant storefront and said to the MTA, "Look, I have a 2-year track record of paying my rent. I think I could be a really good, reliable tenant in that space if you give me a deal." And Turnstile's become a really fascinating shopping experience. One, they've got some great food options,
Mhm.
and then they have these beautiful craft stores, and all this is part of the subway. It's
Well, so here's why I was just so taken by it, because we're going to have congestion pricing, assuming it gets through the courts and everything else, and that means, like it or not, more people are going to be traveling the trains. If we make the subways, and listen, efficiency, I get all that, but if we make it like it's like a real place, if we make it like this is part of our city, then then people will come back and they'll feel better about coming back. I don't want to say they'll stop talking about crime. That's always going to be there. I just thought as a concept to how to build a subway system or how to build a community, a product, this would be a fabulous way to do it, to bring some real stores, bring some food stores. We don't want Kramer running out to get what did Kramer get? He got forget what it was that he grabbed from the subway and he came back in. We don't want that, but to stand there and wait for a train and maybe get a bite, something that's kind of a nice snack. I think it's win-win-win. It'll bring people in. It'll make us feel better about our city.
And these are small businesses too. I mean, we're not
Yes.
talking. I mean, the restaurants are high end. I mean, they're really super duper, uh, you know, exclusive and some really great cooking and but remember the traditional newsstand. That's something that's a dying breed everywhere.
Because the paper, listen, you would know as well as anybody, people aren't buying newspapers anymore. I mean, they're all on the train reading the paper on their phone.
But the few that are still in operation, some of them are really very good. They've got quite a selection of magazines and
Right.
periodicals from all around the world. So those spaces are being repurposed for all kinds of uh, businesses that, again, they're average New Yorkers that are taking a shot at
Uh,
being entrepreneurs. And so if the right now is a good time if you're in that position and you're looking for a space where you've got a locked in you've got locked in foot traffic.
That's
This is
how
the
to do it. So let's see in your very short piece, because that's all they give. That's all they give the editor in chief. You said that according to Cranes, more than 80% of former retail spaces are still vacant. That that means there's opportunity here. I just think the real estate is good to, as you say, for entrepreneurs and others, but it's good for the city to do. Listen, we're almost out of time. Ralph Ortega from City and State New York. Uh, what's next? What's the next week? You don't know yet.
Oh, what's coming up next?
I know it's my job to ask a question you can't answer. I'm sorry.
Well, since we're talking about the MTA, we in these next few weeks are going to be doing a mass transit special report,
Oh boy.
and it'll include an interview I have with Jano Lieber, where he really tackles the subject of congestion pricing and why he believes it's going to happen.
Right.
And he discusses the benefits of it. We get into some of the some
Good.
discussion
Listen,
about.
Ralph, we do got to go,
Okay.
but I'm going to look forward to that. Are you going to write the whole piece, or it's just your little thing at the front
I
of the paper?
contributed to it. There's
There you go.
several writers and
Great.
lots of interviews.
Listen, yeah, I love you guys. It's so important to me. It sits right on my dinner table, right on my breakfast table every single week, and I make sure to read it cover to cover. Thank you so much for your time, and
Thank
we'll
you,
see you
Gary.
around town. Thank you.
Take
There
care.
he is,
Bye now.
Ralph Ortega, editor in chief from City and State New York. We're going to take a short break, folks, and then when we come back, it'll be a wonderful Bronx author who has a brand new book of short stories. Don't go away.